Hi everyone, I hope you're all well and I hope you're all doing okay. I just wanted to share a few tips on positioning and attachment for anyone who is finding it hard to latch their new baby, and for anyone who is finding it difficult at the moment to get direct lactation support or face-to-face lactation support and a lactation consult. Essentially, your breast is like a clock face, so really your baby can access your breast from all around, from 360 degrees. But when you're first starting out, it might be easiest for you to follow some basic principles of positioning and attachment. So when you position your baby, effective and good positioning will allow for effective and comfortable latch. So it's really important to get positioning right so that you then can make latch on easier, and it will help your baby to latch on more easily. I'm going to go through the principles of good positioning using the traditional cross cradle hold, but really the principles apply to any position that you're choosing to feed your baby in, be that the cradle, the cross cradle hold, the rugby hold, or the lying down position. An easy way to remember the principles of good positioning is to memorize the word chin. And I'm gonna let you know what chin stands for. So it's not necessarily to do with the baby's chin, although that will play a big role as well. But I'm just gonna it's like a mnemonic, so CHIN, and I'm just gonna cover what each letter stands for when you're starting out with positioning. So C stands for keep your baby close. So you want to hold your baby as close to you as possible, and also remove any blankets, muslin cloths, or if you have your baby swaddled, that will also mean that there is extra clothing and a barrier between you and your baby. So remove all towels, all blankets, bring your baby as close as possible, and ideally in skin contact when you start out. Sometimes mums swaddle their baby because they find that or they feel that their baby's hands and arms are cycling and they're in the way of letting them attach their baby. But there is a way of tucking your baby's arm under your breast so that you can still manage to latch onto your baby. And in fact, actually the cycling and the patting of the hands on your breast of your baby is also a normal newborn reflex, and it actually plays a role in the release of your oxytocin, because through touch on your breast oxytocin is released. So whilst it's sometimes mums feel that the baby's hands are in the way, it does actually help to release your letdown. So the next letter of chin, H, stands for head free. So when you're bringing your baby to the breast, you would like to keep your baby's head free so that they can come onto the breast with their chin leading and scoop up a large mouthful of breast, not just the nipple, also the areola. Imagine also if you were to take a drink and a sip from a glass and someone pushed you by your head, it would be quite difficult for you to take a sip of water. And the same goes for your baby. So if your baby is pushed by their head onto the breast, they're likely to only attach to the nipple, be pushed in, just seal their lips around the nipple. The nipple will not go far back into the baby's mouth and quite likely rub against their hard palate, and that's what's going to make you sore. So you will want to allow your baby to tip their head back slightly, so have the head completely free, tip their head back slightly so that they can come onto the breast with their chin leading and scoop up a large mouthful of breast. And the easiest way of allowing your baby's head to be free in the cross cradle hold is if you support your baby's neck and shoulders, so keep their head free completely. Don't worry that their head will fall off, or will that you're not supporting the head enough, because if you have if you support your baby's neck and shoulders, the head will not be able to extend too far. And then tuck your baby here under your elbow and bring them as close as possible. Earlier we mentioned about the hands and the arms. If you find the hands and the arms in the way, you can tuck your baby's lower arm under your breast, and they can kind of hug the breast, and then the other arm is not really even so much in the way, or you tuck it in here, although that might also mean that there is a little bit more a gap between you and your baby. So you might just want baby to get baby to hug your breast from top and bottom. The next letter in chin is I, and I stands for in line, so keeping baby's head and body in a straight line or aligned, so that they're able to drink or transfer milk effectively. Going back to the example with you yourself trying to take a sip of water, we also take a sip of water like that. We don't have our heads twisted and try and drink like that. Would make it much harder, and it's the same for the baby at the breast. The last letter in chin stands for nose to nipple. So when you're bringing your baby to the breast, start out with baby's nose opposite the nipple rather than the mouth opposite the nipple. If baby just goes onto the nipple only, seals his lips around the nipple is only going to rest against the hard palate and rub against the hard palate, and that's what's going to make you sore. So if you bring baby on asymmetrically at an angle, then baby will be able to scoop up a large mouthful of breast, drawing all the areola from under the nipple and the nipple, and that way the nipple will be drawn in as far as the soft palate, and feeding won't be sore. There's a little a little thing you can do with your own tongue. If you brush against with your own tongue, try to go back into your throat, brush against your hard palate, you will feel that junction between the hard and the soft palate, and you want the nipple to go as far as the soft palate. So we used to say that in order to start out nose to nipple, bring your baby tummy to tummy. That really depends very much on mom's anatomy. So if mom's breasts are like this and the nipple is pointing out straight, then yes, if you bring your baby tummy to tummy, that allows your baby to start out with nose opposite the nipple. But if your breasts are hanging a little bit lower, then bringing baby tummy to tummy will mean that your baby is over the nipple. So you'll have to adjust that and bring your baby a little bit lower as well. Really start out nose opposite the nipple. And as long as you otherwise keep the principles of head and body in a straight line. So if, let's say, your breast is hanging quite low there. So let's say if your breast was hanging quite low here, you will have to bring your baby up from under and onto the breast. So not necessarily straight across tummy to tummy. So that is important to bear in mind, that it depends more so on what UNICEF UK, I used to do, I attended a breastfeeding and relation course once with UNICEF UK. They didn't say tummy to tummy, they said it depends on the angle of the dangle, and it depends And it's important for baby to start out facing the food rather than tummy to tummy. It's the angle of the dangle. I'm also going to post some useful YouTube videos on positioning and attachment. Here again, one is from UNICEF UK and the other one is from Global Health Media. But now if we're looking at signs of effective attachment, so if your areola is very large, you might be able to see some areola below the bottom lip, but in general, you should see only areola above the top lip and not so much below the bottom lip. Also, the chin is deeply indented into the breasts, really tucked in. And if you follow the principles of good positioning, that will automatically happen. And also then when your baby starts drinking, you want to hear audible swallows. So that at first might be quite tricky to hear. For me, I always compare it to when I listen to my own swallows. When I take a drink and I listen to my own swallows, that's often how I find it. It sounds like when you hear your baby swallow. The suck and swallow ratio once your milk starts to flow is typically 2 to 1, so 2 sucks 1 swallow, or 1 to 1, 1 suck 1 swallow when your baby drinks actively and is transferring milk. If there is more sucks and less swallows, then perhaps there's something wrong with the milk transfer during the active drinking stage. Typically when they start drinking, to release a milk flow, your baby will come onto the breast suckling quite fast. Then your milk is released and your baby starts to drink, and then the sucks will be 2 to 1 or 1 to 1, and towards the end of the feeds they're more like flutter sucks again before your baby detaches by himself or falls asleep at the breast. Another important sign of effective attachment is that it doesn't hurt when your baby is drinking. So whilst the initial latch-on might be quite intense, after 30 seconds or so that should ease off and it should be comfortable when your baby is drinking. If that is not the case, take your baby off and start out again, because if the damage is done, then that will take time to heal and every latch will be painful. So the best way is, if the latch continues to be painful, just insert the little finger into the corner of baby's mouth, release the vacuum, and start out again. So I hope you found this helpful. This was more technical. Of course, if that doesn't work at all, it's always worth to try adopt a laid back approach and a laid back position, and use the principles of biological nurturing, whereby the baby kind of falls by with the help of gravity more deeply into your breast anyway, and also the baby's inborn newborn reflexes are triggered to stimulate natural breastfeeding behavior. And if you want to find out more about biological nurturing, Google Susan Colson and biological nurturing, and you will find out much more information on her website if you found the principles of good positioning and attachment quite technical.